So you would go, would you hit like a plateau and you'd be like, I need to get away? Or would you go the routine quarterly? Or would you go, I want to level up, I need to get away? Like, was it like a trigger that you just like, nah, I need to get away now?
So the very first time I experimented with this was actually on the back of a copywriting course. So it's going way back. So I was in a room with Bond Helbert, which is the son of Gary Helbert, one of the greatest copywriters of all time, although Bond is an excellent copywriter as well.
Second.
It's got to be tough having that last name and being in that industry, I will say.
It's always second in the shadow.
How do you feel about like Tiger Woods' son playing golf?
Dude, I'd be the guy that would name his kid Junior. Like, just to try and have the legacy go on.
Yeah, or like even Michael Jordan's kids, like playing basketball.
Oh, you're never gonna come up to that level.
Well, to his credit, Bond has actually done an astronomically good job of carrying his father's legacy in copywriting. He's an excellent copywriter.
Totally.
But one of the things he used to talk about was writer's block, right? And the idea being of like how he solved it in copywriting was like they'd get to this point where they were frustrated or they couldn't find the right hook or they couldn't do it. And then the way they'd solve it is just like, go for a drive, go for a weekend away.
Yeah.
And he would tell these stories about how him and Gary would literally like grab some books, grab some pen and paper, because, you know, computers weren't, or laptops weren't up what they were today, go away for these weekends, and inevitably they would solve whatever sales letter they were working on from the weekend away. Like, and then it became, they realized this. So rather than waiting till they were frustrated, they started like, what would you call it? Like
routinely.
Yeah, like it was intentionally part of the process. So they would do it to like instigate new ideas or invoke new ideas because it would make their copy and business and everything better. So once they noticed the effects, it became the standard. So I'm in this room, funnily enough, in a mastermind weekend away, in the room, hearing about invoking this as the idea, and then took this on board. So I did the quarterly thing initially, decided, hey, hang on a second, weekends away aren't that bad, kind of nice. So went all out on it for a good few years with Bianca pre-kids. We would do at least, I'm going to say at least 2 a quarter.
Amazing. Yeah. It's funny that you say that. Like, what is it? Bill Gates does his like 2 weeks a year where he takes that bag of books.
We stole that idea. We did that as well. Although I must say iPads, Kindle Reader. But I loved the idea.
I don't want to cut down some trees just to read. No, totally.
Just curiously, what were you and I doing at 5:30 a.m. this morning?
You can imagine, so 2 guys have gone away for a 4-day weekend, in bed by 9, and then smack bang on the couch reading books at like 5 a.m. with a coffee in hand. Yes. Funnily enough, so I did something similar, but mine triggered off from Sam Ovens, where he used to get away for 1 week a quarter. And so I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. And he walked through exactly what he does. And I'm like, that's a really fascinating approach where he goes either out into the wilderness, either out to snowfields or anything like that, and just tried to use that to build creativity into himself. And so when I was living in the Philippines, what I would actually do was go to like a 5-star resort, which was like, it was like a 2-hour trip from where I lived to this 5-star resort. It was like amazing. And it'd be like, Friday, I'm out, I'm done. 4 days later, I'll be back.
Why do you think it's so effective?
It's an interesting, because you're taking yourself out of your typical routine, your typical environment, and putting yourself into somewhere else. I think that changes the way that your brain thinks.
Completely changes your state.
Totally. Because, and funnily enough, like the way that I approach it is always look at going, well, how can I stay somewhere better that I aspirationally would like to be? So I'm not trying to go out into like some wilderness place that I'm like, I don't want to be here.
So it's like future pacing.
Totally. Like the place that we're at is right across the road from the beach, and it's like a 3-bedroom, 2-story place. Like
you can say it. It's pretty baller. I'm not going to lie.
And I looked at it and I'm like, this needs to be better than my apartment, which is great, and your house, which is great. And I'm like, how do you do that?
We have pretty high standards in that area.
Well, imagine going to somewhere that's like lower. And because I'm like, if you're surrounded by something that's aspirational, surrounded by, like, for example, when I went to resorts, it was other people would always cook for me. I would literally just have everything on standby, and whatever I wanted to do, I would be able to go. But then I also like the idea of like not really being bound by some kind of constraints. Like when you're at your house, you've got to feed Jack, for example. You've got...
Yeah, he's still getting fed.
No, but Yeah, but then you have meetings. You'll be like, "Oh, I've got to go to the gym," but when you're out, there is no gym. Like you've got to try and create that yourself, and so it takes you entirely out of this environment. And I think it just invokes creativity, but also allows you to unpack a whole heap of your problems.
Yeah, I think routine is dangerous. And I'll express this is like you might have a great routine for what you're doing now. So I'll use, again, I seem to always use fitness analogies, right? So we'll go with that. If you're in a routine right now where you're doing the same exercise every week, doing the same food, and maybe it's working really well for you in a specific area, it's not working for you in other areas.
Yeah.
So when I look at that, I think if you're someone who lives a very routine life, which business owners tend to, their calendars tend to be very scheduled, very like consistent week on week. So it might be a few that don't have that, but they're kind of bedding in the same like state, thinking,
Completely.
food, environment. So what are the chances of gaining a new perspective within that? Right? If you do the same things every week, you're not getting the exposure to different things to actually create new ideas or new thoughts. And I think, have you had this experience, just to illustrate it? Have you ever gone on a holiday, right? And there's something on the holiday that has made you see it differently and you've thought about it for your business? So maybe like you see a product or something, you go, oh, I wonder if that would sell in Australia, or they're upselling this. Maybe I could sell this in my business, right? It's like the experience creates the new idea.
Totally. I've actually had that, like when I've gone overseas, like with food. And I'm like, why can't Australia just do pizza like the Italians do? And I'm like, oh, it's the quality of the food. I'm like, why can't you just go and get that quality straight across? And I'm like, that's that creativity of going, well, maybe there's some other part of my business that I could be improving on, like the ingredients of when you go to Italy versus just continuing to sort of repeat yourself in your own environment. Or just going, I'm sure I can solve the quality problem. And like, you just need to get out and see it.
Totally. The other one I think comes into this. So the routine, definitely an environment you touched on like as well, which I think is there. But I'm going to say like brain space.
I love this. Go on.
Yeah. So for us, we work online, although I imagined if you work in an office, it's not much different. Or even when I was a trade, it actually wasn't any different. But there's constantly things coming at you all day, every day as a business owner. So whether it's pings, Slack notifications, emails, people in your office, sales calls, like it's a very like on environment. It's an execution environment where it's almost the reverse when you have time away. Like even in the time, we've only been here for like not even 24 hours yet. And in that time, the deloading of the brain, and it kind of slows down even into itself. Like there's space to digest things and think through them properly that you just wouldn't do in sitting at the desk in your normal environment.
The way I think about it is basically my business goes on pause in my mind, right? Like, yes, the team will still execute whilst I'm away, like if it was a weekday, right? But it goes on pause in the sense that any problems that I'm aware of, any client challenges that I'm aware of, anything like that, I will not try to solve whilst I'm away. Like it will be there when I get back because I need my brain and my mind to decompress and literally be everywhere else. Hey, fellow business owner, if this topic and value-packed short video has resonated with you at all, and you want to dive deeper into creating wealth inside and outside your business, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now.